Hey there, American Horror Story fans. We are talking all about American Horror Story Season 6, Roanoke, Chapter 5, what we liked and what made us go, Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
What is up, American Horror Story fans?
Hey.
Welcome to the AfterBuzz American Horror Story After Show for Season 6, Chapter 5. I'm your host, Alana Jordan. You can find me on Twitter at Alana Jordan and on Instagram at That Alana Jordan Girl. And today I am joined by my full panel of awesome peeps.
Hey guys, I'm Kelly McInerney. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HollyWeirdo.
Hey guys, I'm Michelle Madison. You can find me on Instagram at Michelle_Madison TV.
Hello, my goblins and ghouls. This is Zach Kelch here. You can find me on social media at those names. Okay, thanks, bye.
Oh, he was so Kanye today.
Yep, I was there.
Love it. So, let's talk about this episode. This episode, yeah.
Such
Basically, okay, so this episode had some moments that I was meh, but it had some moments that I was quite excited about. Mostly before the opening credits even officially start. We finally get Evan Peters.
True.
Woo-hoo! Countdown to Evan Peters ends now.
EP is in the building. Well, yeah, actually.
In the haunted house.
In the haunted house.
And he
For
was
all
and
of
it's his
eternity.
house.
in his manservant too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guinness.
Well, he didn't even get to stay with him.
I
That's the
know.
saddest part. So we kick off the episode with a new talking head that is a historian giving us a little bit more backstory. We got a little reference last week that it was built by Edward Philippe Mott, which
For everyone out
fans,
there.
yes, you guys are awesome. You were the ones who tweeted us and commented and let us know that is actually pretty much a direct connection. A lot of people thought that it would be a connection
Right.
to Dandy Mott from Freak Show,
Yeah.
which this episode we find out it definitely is because they say the last of the Motts died in South Florida in 1952.
Right.
Dandy.
So we know that Finn Wittrock's character,
Is that
Is
that's when
his
he,
last one.
yeah, that's when he pulled the plug.
We
so
ended with some crazy Motts, but hey, you were fun while you lasted.
yeah, man, the Motts have just had a tumultuous time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this guy didn't really have that great of a life, to be honest.
No, you know, Edward Mott was a socialite who basically really loved art
More than people.
more than people.
Didn't
There
like
was-
being social.
Did not like being social.
If I
Severe
was-
social anxiety.
If I was rich, I think I'd be antisocial too, to an extent.
It depends. The rich people you hang out with, if they're good people or bad people, I feel.
They're usually fake, so I won't be hanging out with too many rich
I
people.
feel like I'd be like making it rain.
Look at you.
Kelly's just gonna pay for
Sharing
her
the
friends.
wealth.
Yeah,
Putting girls through college,
that's the
$1
difference,
bill at
though,
a time.
is if you're like raised rich with like tons of people who are kind of fake versus if you like get a bunch of money and you're like, here are all my existing friends that I know got my back.
Right.
And now we're going to the club every night because none of us have jobs anymore because we don't need to.
Right, exactly.
So that's a tangent. And I brought us there. I'm okay with it. The Motts, Edward, he abandons, he's originally in Philadelphia, nixes that, heads out to North Carolina to set up shop out in the middle of the woods so that everybody can leave him alone. It can just be him, his servants. He leaves his wife and child because he's actually in love with his servant Guinness, or his version of love because he actually
yeah.
loves his art more and tells him
Yeah.
Say that
Guinness.
while
They're
they're
about to have
sex.
sex.
Guinness,
Nice.
you are better than that.
That is that
You are your own
ruins the
cockboxer. What are you
mold.
doing?
Yeah, that
There was
ruins the mood.
there was some laughable lines between the two of them.
What did they do with the
The
nipples?
rouging of nipples.
I'm assuming. I mean,
Something.
pinching them so
I
they get
guess.
Or
red.
putting rouge on them.
Yeah.
Nah. In the tub? That's just so much work.
Yes, that's
I guess
exactly what
that's
it
the
is.
original surfboarding, I guess. I don't
Surfboard.
The
Surfboard.
original surfboard was
No,
just
fine.
lipstick
Rouging
on the
of
nips.
Rouging of the nipple. And who gives instructions
bathtub.
during sex? Like, we're
Someone
gonna
who
rouge
likes
first.
paintings more than people.
Yeah, somebody who clearly doesn't have a very good concept on how to treat people because
Evan Peters always gets some interesting characters. Like,
he does, and
Yeah.
he portrays them so well.
he's good.
I'm kind of
Good on
glad.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad he's not the pig man because we actually got like dialogue that wasn't just.
Yeah.
And so his great eyebrows. I feel like he had really good eyebrows.
I love his eyes.
They're always on point.
I don't know.
That's true.
On fleek.
His eyes reminds me of my ex, so I think that's kind of why I like him.
So back to the show.
I'm sorry, we had wine. Yeah.
So, yeah, basically, things go awry because he doesn't realize he is actually built on this land that is haunted. So, we now have the land consecrated for the first time. First, we don't really know what, but one of the beings knocks over one of the construction guys. So, they're much more subtle clues.
Right.
Like this, I gotta say,
This
Mott,
is-
Mr. Mott did not have much of a chance.
I mean, the butcher then to Shelby and Matt had a solid 200 plus years to perfect her craft of
That's-
sharing
yeah,
the shit
And
out
he's
of people.
antisocial, so he doesn't pick up on social cues.
Also,
Yeah.
I think it happened during the red moon, or like he moved
in during it, 'cause
oh,
he was-
right when it happened.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the historian said he was there for 2 days and got his ass murdered.
Yeah.
So-
And then even worse for him, when quote things get weird, which is the scientific term for all of the paranormal activity that goes down. Of course, cleaver in the wall. We already know. Butcher is nearby. All of his paintings have been destroyed. His poor portrait of a nobleman, his peel, his beloved peel. And of course, he thinks one of the servants did it because he thinks that they disapprove of him and Guinness.
They judge him.
And that they judge him and that this was a malicious act. So he throws them all in the cellar and locks them away, which, Guinness is not too pleased with. Doesn't say anything, just kind of gives him a look. And like any good boyfriend goes, "Get back in the house, you servant."
Yep.
Like, what?
I think Guinness was judging him definitely,
Oh,
but
definitely.
I wonder if they're all a part of the mob. Because the mob's pretty big. So are the servants also part of the mob? Because technically they
I
died
feel the
during
servants, yeah.
They died during the Red Moon, right?
But they did, but the only thing that was different about that is that then we flash forward to their bodies eventually being found, and there were decayed skeletons, which I feel like for most of the other victims we never saw bodies.
find them, yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
So,
they had a
I don't
village.
know.
Because they weren't killed by the butcher. They were killed by
Yeah, 'cause I
Mott.
mean-
Yeah, because they
We-
just
But
died.
they still died on the land during the Blood Moon.
I know. I mean,
Maybe
this
that's
might-
why they're just kind of in the background. Maybe that was their, because, we've always seen this huge mob, and it's like
Yeah,
there weren't
who
that many
were-
villagers.
yeah.
So maybe that's the way of, subtly being like, and also, don't forget, they
Right.
forgot about a whole bunch of people in the cellar, and that's why
Yeah.
there's
And
so
how
many
do you
extras.
forget about people, and that's part of that
This is the thing.
story. When you're retelling the story of what happened, you forget to talk about the people in the cellar.
Or, Guinness, if you are a servant and you get away on a horse, how come you didn't be like, hey, P.S., there's some servants down there?
Yeah, look out for your friends, boo.
Well, he also
didn't
was
look-
probably
I mean,
Kinda
too
locked
busy
him up,
being
too.
Yeah.
locked up for murder.
I mean, realistically, he didn't have his boyfriend was ultimately his boss, too. He didn't have the ground he could get thrown right down in there with him.
But also remember with the time period we're dealing with, as a black servant, he didn't have rights and he
Right.
wasn't seen as a human being. So
True.
he
Yeah.
didn't have much clout. But we did find a lot of holes in this, and I'll let
But
you
at
continue with
least
that.
he was not bound to the land for all of eternity.
True.
Like Mr. Mott, who just wanted to be by himself. And now this party's getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year.
Yep.
Which just gets worse after the credits. And we come back to now.
Modern times.
Modern times. Everybody in the house. Flora, Shelby, Matt freaking out. And Ambrose saying, look, it is time for your merciless reckoning. We gave you an out. You didn't take it. This is your own fault now, and we are not going to show any mercy. So they're freaking out.
They're kind of locked up. Mm-hmm. They
Locked
know where to go.
up.
This was the first part of the episode where I had a little head scratcher because as they're trying to figure out what to do, run away, basically they come up with the brilliant and very in-depth plan of of Shelby running to a car with Flora and just going if she can make it while Matt distracts or something, essentially. But before they can even do that, we have Grudge 2.0 popping out of the woodwork to steal Flora away from them. Where did this girl come from?
It clearly, and I get that they're trying to do as many horror movie references as possible.
Yeah.
And this is clearly a Ring reference, or Ringu, the original Japanese version. But, like, did we really just introduce the chin so that we could make, like, a somewhat racist character that's just like, also this one's Asian?
Right.
Like,
I don't even know if that was supposed to be one of those family members, though, because we had seen them playing in
it
that
was
previous
the daughter,
episode.
I think
So why is she, like, all of a sudden all spider-likey and climbing up the
Unless
walls?
it's something
I don't
else,
know.
unless they're just like the house came alive. But that seems to be the only thing, because everybody else we saw,
I think it was
was
the
the
daughter
actual
that
victims.
fell down the stairs, and maybe that's why she was all.
Contorted.
that's why she's the one who fell down the stairs. But
But even then,
that seemed like a very
A little bit of a stretch there, guys.
I don't know.
We'll let it slide because we don't have any other
We'll
choice.
give it to you. We'll give it to you because, we got a little bit of the Texas Chainsaw thrown in finally, which we'll get to a little later
Yes.
on.
I also
But
don't understand why they just showed up all of a sudden when, like, the nurses have been around. I get, like, maybe because it's the red moon, but, like, how come the nurses can walk around whenever they want?
because the nurses have a stronger evil energy because they killed other people in the house too.
Okay.
So they're more like they're kind of already haunting the house because they're already so evil. The kind of the spirits that don't have as strong of an emotional attachment to anything wouldn't appear as much.
So there's layers to the evil.
Yeah, like that's what they say in ghost hunting and things that have the highest electromagnetic field, things that have the highest EMF readings, things that are the strongest ghost presence are the ones that have the strongest emotional things when they died.
Right.
Okay.
So, it seems like they would radiate a lot of not so great energies since they were old people murderers.
Well, the evilest of them all, the butcher, she apparently, we kind of have like a brief moment where, sure, we get a little explanation that the way she uses all of these ghouls to her advantage now is actually to kind of push the living at that time into her clutches. So that's why we have this girl trying to grab Flora, and then we have the pigman pops up out into the house again, and then in the time of this, actually, some of her colonists light the cars on fire, so now their plan is foiled. And all of a sudden, they're in the basement. They're like, what do we do? And
who shows up?
EP.
To save the day.
Yay!
Well, sure.
I don't know why he didn't show up.
Evan
for it.
Peters, a.k.a. Edward Philippe.
Mott.
Either EP works.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
EP Mott. Boom. So EP Mott shows up.
Like this.
And like he does at the very end of the story, when I wanted him the entire time throughout the show, but that's fine. I'll take what I can get. We finally get Evan Peters shows up and he's like, look, I'm going to help you guys. I don't want the butcher to kill you. I moved out here to be by myself. She keeps inviting people to my party. You guys are gate
ghost
crashers. Get out of here. I don't want 3 more people. I'm going to keep the butcher from killing you. No more, no less. Which, as soon as somebody says no more, no less,
Sealing their fate.
something bad is going to happen. Just like, be like, hey, how about a little bit more? Like maybe direct towards a road and I'll GTFO.
Yeah.
And you can go back to the house. And instead, he gives them what he says is the trophy misprized, which is to die in peace. So he leads them to the woods to die of exposure. Everything is working out great for these guys. Just
They
every
left a long time
turn.
ago.
I mean, let's not get into how a lot of it's their own damn fault. though.
yeah, because they had many opportunities.
That's true.
I mean,
Many.
That
come
is
on.
true. I do have to
So.
say, though, the ghoul ghost effect that they do over Evan Peters' face.
That was good.
That was
Yeah.
cool when the flame would
was
go
so
through.
cool.
It was very interesting that they introduced that for him.
It was
I like that.
awesome. It made me think of like the Haunted Mansion kind of, and also like the old Halloween decorations you would get that you would like move
Yeah.
It's like the Dorian
Little hologram.
to
painting.
make. Yeah, the like very hologram.
Yeah, like Dorian Gray painting where it's supposed
Yeah.
to age.
It was super cool. But as Shelby says, they should have known that out in that forest, they were nothing more than prey. So finally, in true horror movie fashion, we see the light in the middle of the woods, finally the light at the end of the tunnel that turns out to be the train that's coming to run you over. The Polk family.
Oh, yeah.
Coming back.
This was another moment, which I mean, again, I don't want to be nitpicky, but we end up seeing later, and also kind of the whole time, like, somehow they still have their phones pretty much the entire show.
They do.
They've never had a charging issue, which is whatever. I'm not even going to go into that. But they still have their phones at certain times and then don't at others. So we end up seeing that Matt was able to text Lee being like, we have Flora at one point. So then when they were in the woods being able to not see anything, where were the phones to at least
And
use a
also,
flashlight from the phone?
Why didn't they call 911 in the house or anything?
these things?
Or Uber like Cricket did.
Or, you know, like
I'm just
GPS,
saying.
this is where you are.
Yeah.
How, like, Surrey,
Yeah,
find
put Siri
me the
on,
road.
on mute. So yeah.
It could be like spotty, maybe. You know,
Yeah.
Who comes in and
well,
out
I
of
mean,
service.
every horror movie, you go to the woods and you immediately lose service. And because these are haunted woods too, I imagine it probably messes up your signal a little bit.
He still receives
in and out.
texts.
I can only imagine the cell tower that EP Mott put into that house when he built it in 1792
He thought
to
of
make the
everything.
house great service, but the surrounding wood terrible.
Yeah. He thought of everything.
He did.
Undergrounds and all.
That's the best thing about having a ghost build your house, I think, is, you know, the great cell phone service.
Right.
So,
From both sides, you know, on the other side, and
He's walking both sides like the paintings. He's in 2 dimensions.
Two ghosts.
which
have
is
cell
so
phones?
sad too that he was like, I want to live in a painting, I want to be 2 dimensions, and I was like, oh, this will be something like maybe they'll trap him in a painting. Nope, they're gonna skewer him and light him on fire.
They went for some gore this season. Like
Yeah.
every.
They
love
did.
it.
We got
I
some
love
Mott kebab.
We had. I think you were writing a note at the exact moment, but the next
When it
murder
was-
was a rough one.
I
A
love
little
it.
face smushing.
oh yeah,
We did have a little
Yes.
face smushing because they head into the Polk family's house. They realize this is where they found the 2 feral boys. The Polks are still there. And they say, you know, we found your friend. We're helping him out. Elias is strapped down to this table. We found him full of holes. Now he is missing appendages.
people got
and-
hungry, you know.
So this is what's so funny too, because this whole time I was like, oh, I bet the ghosts are going to be cannibalisms because of Jamestown. Nope, the Polks are cannibalists. What? Like, there's cannibalism, but not at all as I expected. So
I don't like the whole cannibalism.
I guess ghosts don't
Yeah.
have
They
any.
eat very Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Very
No,
and Hills
yeah.
Have Eyes. Those are not my thing.
This was
Yeah.
very Texas, but see, I was all about it because I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Me
So the
too.
old and as soon as we saw the Polks at the beginning, I thought it was going to be like a
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw type thing.
Good sledgehammer clink
Ugh.
moment.
Yeah.
And finally, Frances Conroy too.
God, she is so good.
She's amazing. So
good.
that is the one thing that I will say about this episode.
There was phenomenal
Oh.
performances.
The performances in this episode were phenomenal, and I am kind of sad that they were saved until this last episode because
Right.
I wish I could have more and more and more of these characters.
think
Right,
we will.
and then oh my god, why am I
Oh.
blanking on my number one whose face got smushed?
Oh, the professor?
Dennis O'Hare.
Dennis O'Hare.
That him begging to be murdered in the shuddering and the crying, I was just like,
So good.
oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
And so gruesome
Yeah,
and
it was not
horrible. Mama took my leg.
Yeah. And then
Which we didn't get
nibbled
at
on it.
first, but then
Yeah.
when she ate
when
the
somebody
jerky,
is yelling, "Mama took my leg," and that's your bud, and you think you've finally been saved, like, oh man, there is just nothing good that's gonna happen. And then Mama tries to feed Elias to Shelby and Matt and Flora, who politely decline.
Hey, she was working on that all day. She said
Politely
she's been
declined.
smoking that meat.
But apparently it still was rancid.
It's
though.
rancid.
yeah.
It's spoilt.
So
dude's been living in like
So-
a cellar for years. Of course, it's not gonna be prime.
yeah.
Yeah, she likes her meat sweet. She is not too thrilled.
No, I don't
She should have fed him
like that.
sugar first and then cut his leg off.
Is that how?
Is that how it works?
Is that how it works?
Well, that's how it works for other things.
Sure. Just gonna sip my wine.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna sip my wine too because that's in a different. Don't worry about it.
That was when we all
I'll tell
take
you.
a sip.
I'll tell you.
Anyway,
I'll tell you off camera.
So now we get the little backstory of the Polk family. Basically, that they have had a years and years, decades understanding with the butcher
200 years.
200 years.
200-year
understanding.
contract, a deal that they
bring her yearly sacrifice when she struggles to get it on her own. So they work together, and the butcher don't mess with them.
But how did she expect to get it on her own if they're supposed to be protecting the land for no one to get on there? So how is she supposed to get it on her own?
Because
like
maybe I think
hunters,
it's probably like a Texas Chainsaw thing where they're like, hey, we're gonna lead these whatever like campers somewhere else
Like
and bring them, because they said
like
we
the
got
hunters?
places all over the place. Like we got places all over here.
Gotcha.
Which makes me think,
Like the hunters.
yeah, the hunters. So they like lure these people in, and then that's how they're kind of like shooting.
She murders
the
them and
situation.
then they eat them.
But there's also, which a lot of the fans have been pointing to, guys, we're not ignoring you, we just got some stuff to wade through, that this episode maybe does allude to the fact that the police are in fact in on it.
Definitely.
Yes, which is also a horror
Definitely.
movie trope that we get a lot. That we finally get the sheriff, and the sheriff is going to help us out.
Then he
And the
bails.
sheriff is in on it, which we kind of assumed from the beginning because the police were being so sketchy and not.
Yeah, they didn't care.
Yeah,
about anything.
which you would think a police officer would be like,
I don't know.
crazy
Lately,
jacket, way
they've
up,
been-
high up. Like, these are weird things. So Lee, finally, last episode we didn't see her at all. This time we finally get her back. She's been questioned. She knows, though, because she's a police officer. Again, you have 48 hours that they can question before they have to release.
Yeah, if they don't have substantial evidence to charge you, you're released.
So they just keep asking her basically the same question, and she, to quote Mark Twain, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. So she,
Wise words to live by.
Wise.
Yeah.
which also, I don't know, that
What?
it just makes me question some stuff. But she's
What?
okay. We'll see. We'll talk about it a little later in predictions.
Okay.
We'll go
Okay.
into that.
Cool.
But she's like, okay, so we're gonna tell the truth. We're gonna, just wait 48 hours. She calls Matt. Matt cannot answer because he gets away. Well, the Polk family takes them all into their truck. He's waiting for his moment to strike. The gun's aimed at them. He moves the gun out of the way. Shelby kicks the guy off the truck, and then shoots the driver, the son, Mama's
think they're
son,
gonna
right in the
get
head.
You think they're crushing it?
You
Take the crushing it like Elias's skull.
could not have dropped the ball more here.
I mean, yeah.
And by the ball, we mean the gun. We mean the keys
truck.
to the truck.
They didn't
we
even need
mean
keys.
their
Literally
getaway.
roll the decapitated body out and just keep driving.
Yeah, if
Or
you
at
have the gun,
least
Mama
grab the
doesn't
gun
have a
that
gun.
you-
Drive with the body. Who cares?
I know. I was just
Yeah.
gonna just through
Desperate
it.
times, you guys.
Oh,
I get like
my
Mama's still in the
gosh.
front, but like if both of her sons are incapacitated at this point, they're not around.
And she's an old
Shove
lady. You
Mama,
could take
like,
her.
Not to say shove Mama off the train, but
No,
shove Mama out the truck.
off the train.
Yeah.
She's eating legs.
Yeah.
She'll be fine.
Get that leg-eating lady off.
Grab that
Yeah.
gun and then shoot Mama, and then
Yes, and then get in the car and then drive away, and then all is
Yeah.
good.
When is it ever good to run away? When?
Because they say, well, the best option, as has been proven time and time again, is to run into the middle of the woods.
Nope.
And they literally just
And you're
huddle
not a
together
Girl
and like, we're
Scout
gonna
or
wait
Boy
it out.
Scout to know how to get through
Yeah.
the woods. No.
So they're gonna hang out there when
Takes them all 5 seconds to find them again.
when
Like-
EP because EP Mott's cell phone tower kicks in, and it's like, hey, what up, Lee? You need to make a little phone call here. Most inopportune time. Loud buzz. Then immediately found, shotgun in hand, just brought back.
Yeah. How did he catch up with the truck so fast? See?
This is then
Just when you
to make. Go
I don't
ahead.
know. I feel like what you said when we were watching it, Zach. Like you just don't have any empathy or. For
No,
them
I
anymore.
Now you're
lost.
just stupid.
I lost everything
Yeah.
for them because I was just like, which I get. A horror movie cannot exist without a lack of common sense and like critical thinking, but I would hope that the weapon that you just had control of would have at least stayed on you.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how
Why
that
drop
was
it?
lost. Maybe not. Maybe okay, run away from the truck because technically they're still there, but like you literally had a gun in your hand.
Whoever has the gun has the control.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Has the
you
control
so
of
at
the
that
truck.
point you had one person essentially knocked out on the ground. You had a 60-something-year-old woman in a car.
Yeah. And I get the shock of the situation, like, oh, you just shot somebody, that's the shock. But you've had days of like way crazier stuff happening.
Yeah.
By this point, you should learn, hold on to your weapon because everything's trying to kill you.
Or like at this point, how have they not at least fashioned anything or stolen anything from the house to at least have like one of the kitchen knives on them at all times? Like anything.
With all the knives that are like in the ceiling and in the walls, grab one of those bad boys. Like, what are you doing with them after you take them down?
Yeah.
Just putting them in the you can kill me with this drawer?
Yeah.
Too much
So they
common
can do it
sense. Too much common sense.
No common sense.
Right.
They're not like you. They don't have that stuff in their purse. They're not from Jersey.
I just have a pocket knife.
Yeah, she
See?
does. She does.
She does. With a corkscrew. And that's how we got our wine for this episode, which is how we kind of got through this episode because, well, actually, the episode was pretty good. It was just when we got to now, the end, we're getting the snowball effect. Everything is going. We're like, okay, where is this going to lead? Like, this feels like this is coming to a conclusion. We've been talking about how this has been leading up to Act 3. We feel like this is going to be the end.
Well, and especially because we went into this episode 5, knowing that Ryan Murphy has said episode 6, everything changes. So in our mind, like, this is a mini finale to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And I did feel that.
And,
definitely.
and I did definitely feel it. And I'm like, at
happily
this
felt
point,
it.
when Mama comes out and she's like, you killed my son, you're gonna pay. Matt has just given up. He's like, do whatever you want to me. She's saying, you know, you're not gonna run. He's like, I won't. She's like, of course you're not going to, because she's gonna go full-blown misery
On Shelby's leg.
Shelby, which was a
Twist.
big twist
Yeah.
of the ankle.
Which
Oh,
okay, sure.
Yeah, that was like.
my pun was as good as the.
Which just, really signed, seal, delivered my hatred for Matt even more, because
he's definitely
if
useless.
that bastard did not deserve that, then I don't. Oh, God.
Yeah.
He's.
I would have had to fight her.
I saw one of you guys in the chat said that we're hoping Matt has brain damage because he's just really doing so poorly here. So, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm still pulling for
He's
that to somehow come back.
He's accepted that they're ghosts and they're seeing it. That we could say. But
Great.
He's
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt, you've been useless. You said it best yourself. You felt useless, and you definitely.
He was useless. He was completely pathetic. And Shelby is the one laying in the back of the car with her ankle all twisted to garbage, going, you have to save Flora. Promise me you're going to save Flora.
Right.
And he's just kissing her, saying nothing.
Hush.
And then later is like, I felt like I was watching Arrested Development and Ron Howard was narrating in my head where it was like, you've got to save Flora. He was not going to save Flora. Like, I was just like,
He gave
come
up.
on, man. Like, you could do something.
He gave
do
up.
something. Oh. But luckily for them, when all is lost and they're brought to the big fire pit, which I do have to say, the butcher saying, shout out to Mama. Sorry you lost your son.
That was
I know what
Oddly
that's
sweet.
Yeah, it was like a weird, like a mom connection.
But then it shot to her son, who was kind of like.
Her
she
son is
killed
like, yeah,
him?
because
He was looking like, really?
yeah, because he's like, I died because of you,
Oh,
Mom.
you killed me, Mom.
You did this.
But for that to be the turn that kind of saved them, I feel like it just they threw it in so haphazardly. I think they needed to build up more of a turmoil in the of that mother-son dynamic throughout the first few episodes.
But I feel like they've done that with the past 5 seasons, so
True. We have a lot of mother-son issues.
There's a lot of
Point being,
mother-son.
moms, work on your sons
But
and your relationships with
A
them.
mom did help save the day.
Yes.
Yes.
Good point.
A mom did save the day this time. But I do have to say one thing, though. Kathy Bates, her portrayal in Misery, and then having that kind of echoed with Frances
Yeah,
Conroy,
it was,
with the ankle smash. And then the two of them having that moment, I was like, I see you, Ryan Murphy. I see you.
I really wonder if we're just reading really into the show, or if all these are actually thought out.
I think they're thought out. I think they're thought out just because I feel like the writer's room, because they have so many people who are so invested in the show, they have to think things through, because otherwise people like us will jump on it and nitpick.
Well, I think they did to an extent, but we did find a lot of loopholes, though.
We did, when, finally, Mama Lee saves the day with this car that came out of nowhere.
That was just on fire.
It was either just on fire,
there was a
or
truck
now,
and
of
a
course,
car
she
on
just
fire.
found a car.
Or just, surprise, here's a car now, because the police, of course, bail, leave her there, which we know
proves
now.
that they're a little bit into it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little bit.
They know something.
windy.
They just saw a fire, I'm out.
Yeah, it was like, I don't get paid enough for this.
Yeah, the whole thing, I
trust the
don't
cops.
understand. Yeah, I'm like, I
So-
don't get, like, the setup for it. Like, couldn't she have just taken the cop car? Like, couldn't there have been, like, the cop could have been involved? Like, there could have been
Right.
some sort of way
Wait for
to
the
make
cop
this.
to park. He's got a gun.
It seems, I mean, there is the other thing to look at, because for me, this episode was difficult because I thought the previous 4 episodes were really well thought out, paced, timed, everything. This one seems so rushed and kind of nonsensical that
Yeah.
I have to look back at the whole thing, that we have to look at what we're seeing as a dramatic reenactment of the actual story, that maybe we can write a little bit off as it being a great finish to this fictitious documentary that we're supposed to be watching.
Yeah, which
you
it did
know?
feel like the end of something that you would be watching on a TV show, where it does kind of have that feeling where it's like talking to your excited drunk friend who's like telling a story, and they just are
Yeah.
like, and then this happens, and then this,
This was
happens,
a
and then
drunk
this happens,
history episode
and then
of Horror Story.
at the end, and you're like, oh, okay, well then
Right.
it's just over now.
Right.
Yeah.
Because literally, I think within 5 minutes, we had them hopping into a car.
They get into this car.
The butcher comes running back out of the fire at him.
Before we even get to that, the butcher is killed by her own son.
Yeah.
Again.
Which she's already dead, so then we didn't know that
And
because they're
she
now
could be killed in the ghost
Yeah,
world.
that she can, but
Cricket
because
didn't get to
now they're
explain that
like
to
the
us.
red moon, the blood moon now means that they take physical embodiment. But I guess
I think there's fire slows her down. I think she's still gonna be alive and
Yeah.
well,
Like
not
a
alive, but
cockroach?
haunted. No, but he's just like, I'm gonna burn you, hurt you a little bit, because you could
slow
tell
her down, basically.
But fire
So
is
they could get
usually
away.
like the ultimate way to die, though, in horror movies. Like, you can't get past fires.
Yeah, but it was like a Michael Myers moment,
Yeah.
which I liked.
Yeah.
That was kind of the Halloween moment where it's like he's on fire and then still attacks again.
Right.
Which
But like
So evil.
to make that moment and it has to come back, or else like, why was that a moment?
it did seem very much like this is what we see in a
out of
lot of
nowhere.
horror movies. It felt like I could almost see the writer's board where somebody put it on a note card and was like, "Killer comes back from fire," and they were like, "Oh yeah,
We forgot, guys.
we gotta stick that in.
We only have one more episode. We have to.
We gotta throw it in."
But
You know,
also-
didn't it just kind of feel
Well,
like it was kind of like, oh,
think-
here's some horror movie tropes?
Unless, I mean, granted, we are.
Unless it's a circle back.
We are really sitting into this thinking that next, like, we're done with this storyline. So, I mean, I hope that we're not, and some of these things that we have some issues with get resolved.
But we still get our whole denouement of the episode too,
Yeah.
where we even see them like it's over, it's done,
But also,
and they've gone.
like, real quick with that scene, where was Lady Gaga trying to help?
That's what I'm
the
saying.
butcher?
Literally, that's what
That's
the
what
chat's
I'm
talking
saying.
about
Yeah.
right now, is where did she go?
Yeah.
See, okay,
She wasn't getting some, so she's mad. She's mad at
I
Matt.
don't know.
Matt didn't give her what she wanted.
But now
feel like we
I
have-
feel
gave
like
up
because
she
it was the
could've gotten
blood
it.
moon, maybe it was like that was the time that she's like, okay.
She's on vacation?
Wasn't
Like,
what?
Well,
Wasn't
I mean, she appeared more during the blood moon.
I'm trying to remember the timeline, but wasn't the episode before when she lured Matt down into the
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
Wasn't that literally in the world
The
of the
time
story
span?
the
Yeah.
day before?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think she's still there. She just is
Crying.
she's just chilling,
Letting things happen?
seeing how things play out.
She's having her Ben and Jerry's pint of ice cream moment
It's so
probably
funny.
right now, and
yeah.
sad about a boy.
think-
Or
yeah.
or she's scheming some
Or
shit that
she's
we're about to see
scheming.
the rest of the season.
So so we get the end of this episode. Before we get to predictions and kind of our final thoughts, one last kind of plot hole that we found. They get to the motel, everything's good, everything's like
They went to
over.
the hospital
They go to the hospital
to fix her leg.
to fix her leg, but they say we have enough cash
Just for a hotel room and takeout.
and for takeout. So how did you get to the hospital with no ID and no credit card and no like other forms of anything? And why did you have cash in your pocket and nothing else?
Well, at the hospital, you just give your social security number to get medical care. I don't know
Go
how
to
they
the
get cash,
ER.
though. Yeah, you just give them your social, and they'll find you. It's
Maybe in that car they
But,
they
yeah,
found there was extra
Yeah.
maybe
cash.
because Well, maybe she had money on her since she's the only one that was out in the real world.
I could say they could maybe play it off because it was the recurring nightmare, that maybe that was why it didn't sync up. Like,
Right.
oh, like they were at this was like...
I have a prediction that I think actually makes the end of this episode something. So, whenever.
Well, let's go ahead and hop right into those
Yeah.
then. Let's check out some predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Am I just going to kick it off then?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So, I don't know if we remember, but in that moment when they finally get brought back to the butcher, Shelby's ankle smashed, all this stuff, you cut to the moment when Priscilla says that Flora was supposed to be last and now she's going to be first. And then there's now an interview moment with real Shelby, Lily, saying, I can't believe they did that to her. She's just a child. It was terrible. But we didn't see Flora die or anything happen to her in the reenactment. We've never seen Flora in an interview. In my mind, Flora died. I think Flora actually died in that moment, and the show within the show changed the story or didn't show it or whatever, and I think we saw a not real ending of it from that point forward, of them going to the hotel and all this stuff, because they made a direct allusion that Flora was murdered.
They spoke in past tense.
Yeah.
And we never saw
And
Flora. I agree, and to piggyback off of that, I think even bigger, I think the whole thing is a fake story. The My Roanoke Nightmare, the whole recreation, their whole story, Matt, Shelby, and Lee's story is all made up, and that Lee killed her daughter and husband. This was all a made up thing to like throw them off the trail, and that now the Lady Gaga spirit actually does exist, and by doing all of this, they've brought her to life. So this is now, I think, for the second half, going to flip to the behind the scenes, and it's going to be them piecing together all of the how this is a thing. Yeah. But I think that it's not even real. I think Flora died, and I think this is a made-up story that they then use as a cover.
Interesting.
I think too that
Very
the
John Bonet.
Yeah, but with like paranormal aspects thrown in, with some real paranormal thrown in.
So wait, do you think Matt and Shelby ever existed at all? Or?
No, I think Matt and Shelby do exist, and I
trying
think
to cover it
that
up.
they're part of the cover-up.
Interesting.
I think that it's them protecting Lee, because otherwise, I mean, honestly, if your ankle was just smashed to shit and you're laying in the back of a truck bed, are you going to be going, save Flora, save Flora? And then Flora dies? This whole time, all we wanted was, but we went through hell. Everything we did, this was all for her.
Interesting.
I think the production company is gonna go back there and find out. It's gonna be like
And
a
if you're
ghost
telling the
hunters.
truth,
Yeah.
you don't have to remember anything.
Yeah.
That's why, just because that just really stuck out, I was like, I feel like they're lying.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I'm sticking with my original prediction, which was, that they're going to do a reenactment. The production crew is going to now investigate the house.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it's going to go from here. I definitely think that we're going to see more of the Evans Peters character. I hope so. Because
Me too.
because if he's the original owner that died and he's now being introduced at episode 5, and he wasn't like at least mentioned in 1 or 2, it's kind of weird. And they introduced the historian, which is who's not as hot as you. I just want to say that.
Oh.
And just I feel like there's a connection with Evan Peters' character and going forward, and them doing this kind of like production crew reenactment, like I guess Halloween kind of thing when they went back into the house and they were trying to figure out what was going on. Remember with Tyra Banks?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking is gonna go on. Yeah. But I don't know from there. And I definitely think that the butcher's going to come back because we see that she doesn't die. I think the turning point was her son turning on her and him probably basically trying to kill her, killed himself too. But I think it's going to be, I guess, all the spirits that, the people that she killed, I think that's going to be a turning point for them to also probably look to turn on her, which is part of why Croatoan now works, I think. That's my prediction.
Ooh.
But it's kind of loose.
Interesting.
It's kind of loose, but it's kind of on where you guys are going, I think. That's it.
Now, what do you guys think? Do you think that they're going to have existing actors play secondary characters for this kind of second half of the season? like they've done in some previous seasons, or do you think?
You know, do we know that Sarah Paulson and Cuba have like continued production on the show?
I don't, but I wouldn't be surprised.
They've said in interviews that they were excited about filming the second half, and that you were going to be very surprised at what you would see.
Right, which is why I have to assume that
they have to do more.
They have to be.
I don't think we're going to get like new main cast members, so I feel like somehow we're maintaining with who we know we have and whatnot.
Or maybe somehow the things attached to the reenactment, because the reenactment is like, so the actors are then haunted or something.
No, I mean that's where I was going, because I was thinking like, if Evan Peters just came in episode 5, well now his real life character, the actor that's playing Mott, will be in the show moving forward as a modern day 20-something actor, which something is happening.
And I hear the Uber guy actually has a role that's tied into this, so I think we're gonna see him too, because there's a reason why he got some TV play. Yeah. So I read that too.
Also, is the
last name
reenactment at the house? Are they filming it at the real house? Do we know that?
I would think not.
We don't know.
They said that's the last time they've been there. Shelby said it in an interview or something, I think.
Okay.
I don't think that they went back there.
Yeah, I feel like the reenactment would be somewhere else.
Yeah. I think going forward, I think Shelby and Matt may have to go back to the house.
Right. Guys,
I think the crew at least is.
We're still getting so much hope for a demon baby from our fans.
I could see a demon baby.
You know, I feel like they would not have set up the very first episode with Matt being knocked out and Shelby losing the baby if those things didn't come into play.
Full circle.
If Matt constantly questioning his own mental abilities because of this KO, and her constant, saying again, I wanted to own my own yoga studio. I wanted to be a mom.
But see, that's why it's just like a grander prediction. If I had to guess, I'm wondering if that's the episode 10 thing. Why episode 10 is a standalone and they're going real full circle with it.
And it's going to be just a bookend. And then she's just pregnant with demon baby, and it's going to be like an Omen thing, but at the very end.
But also,
since Lady Gaga is gone, we have to assume that she comes back. And I mean, I think there's still a baby aspect of her.
She's horny and wants a man in the afterlife. So
we also don't know
can ghosts get pregnant?
Well,
anything can happen.
We already don't know the extent of what her and Matt have had sex already. I mean, they've penetrated twice. We don't know to what completion.
Well, if she is like the succubus as defined by like the folklore, is that the succubus can get humans pregnant by having sex with a human male and then having sex with an incubus, and then the demon incubus goes and has sex with a female and like a woman. So it basically is like but it's like a trade-off.
Right.
Okay.
So it like becomes demonized.
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
And then
it's too much work for me in the afterlife. I'm like, forget it.
But then they would have to introduce another demon, and I just don't think that's going to happen.
No. Unless maybe it's just they just skip that other one and Matt has sex with...
if they're like, this is just too much. Yeah. And then she just like implants the baby or something.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's going to be a baby, I feel fairly certain.
Like, I definitely agree with it. And I still think that if Flora is in fact dead, she's going to be the guardian for the demon baby. I think I said that in my prediction. I think she is, just like in The Omen. I feel like
she wasn't a ghost, though.
Well, whether she's dead or alive, I think she's going to be like a protector of this baby.
For me, it seems like it's very obvious that Flora died under very angry and dark circumstances, and I don't think she's coming back to it in a happy place, like in any sort of a happy, positive role.
I feel like Lily was too upset to like for her to be alive. What you said about how it was a fake death.
I think that was very intentional. That the line was, she was just a child. What they did to her is what she said.
Yeah.
But then nothing happened to her.
But then it felt like
A-okay.
and so it seemed like that line was like a setup to make you think that she was gonna die. Then like psych out, she doesn't. Like Pigman's coming for her, but then the car hits last second. But I don't know if that line was kind of like just a setup line just for that one moment. But it seems like, like if you're going back.
Well, it also, I mean, we have to understand, I mean, the whole time they've never they've never given us a fake out before. They've always, like, if anything, they tell us ahead of time what we're about to see.
Yeah.
And so this was the one time when she directly commented on something that did not happen.
Well,
Yeah.
it was during the blood moon, so maybe she did get killed, but she's still able to walk around.
I thought the whole time this episode, I was thinking that she already was dead, and she was just and she was a ghost with them the whole time.
Well, she had the like weird burn mark on her arm too.
That was
the house.
from
The
gripping.
ring, the ring character that like grabbed her arm that then she then had bandaged up.
Yeah, I was
like,
gonna say in the
from
hotel. So that's what I was thinking. Maybe she could still walk around.
I think that's just showing that they could be like more solid in the blood moon and hurt you. Like they're not.
Well, but I would say if she had it wrapped up though, then that means that she went to the hospital and they looked at it and they would have known that she was dead if she was dead because they would have taken her vitals. So at that point.
Well, that's why I mean.
But it's also a dream.
My whole thing is
the whole thing where she was bandaged up. The whole thing is a dream.
I think that hotel scene just isn't a real thing.
Yeah, because I don't think they went to the hospital. It doesn't. None of it. Like the whole because then she wakes up after the butcher cleaves her, and she like that's a recurring nightmare that she has.
Yeah.
That I think, but she doesn't even say nightmare. She just says I had that dream, and because Flora's alive in it, I think that's why she calls it a dream and not a nightmare.
Ooh, that's very.
And that's why it's my Roanoke nightmare. But that's why she doesn't even call it a nightmare. She calls it her dream.
I don't know. I'm just hoping that next episode that we get the production team doing like showing us some stuff because I want some new energy and movement now that we're all confused.
And the clip was really short, so it better be good.
it just was like, hey, Cheyenne, you see Cheyenne's face finally.
Yeah.
They basically were like, no, Cheyenne's here too.
Yeah.
That is who you heard.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing.
We invited him to the party.
Yeah, it was basically him just being like, hey guys. Ugh. But anyway,
Let's see.
we're excited to see him say hello next week. And until next week, where can we find more from you guys?
Find me on Instagram and Twitter at Zach Kelch. Have a good night, guys.
And find me on Instagram at Michelle_Madison TV.
Hey, and I'm Kelly McInerney. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HollyWeirdo.
And I'm Alana Jordan. You can find me on Twitter at Alana Jordan and on Instagram at That Alana Jordan Girl. You can find us on AfterBuzzTV.com. Also, if you're checking us out on YouTube, check us out on iTunes and SoundCloud, and vice versa. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. We love hearing from you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.